I want to tell you a little bit this morning about my dog. Talk about my dog. I have an 18-month-old dog, and she's a rescue, so I don't know what she is. I don't know what kind of dog she is. I suspect she's some kind of a herding dog because she nips at my heels when I'm doing something that she doesn't want me to do. So if I get up and walk across the room, she'll nip at my heels. So I suspect that tells me that she's got some kind of herding dog in her, but I don't know specifically what kind of dog she is. She's a rescue. And she has two people in her life that she likes, and that's about it. That's all she needs. Some of you have met my dog, and it probably didn't go well if you did. Because she kind of lunges at people. She doesn't really like to meet new people. She loves meeting other dogs and doesn't really like meeting other people. Now I know some people like that also, by the way, that like meeting dogs but not people. But she kind of lunges at people, and she'll warm up to you if you give her treats. You gotta give her some treats, and then she'll take your treats from you. Doesn't mean she's gonna like you yet, but she'll take your treats. And she engages in other funny behavior. She's the silliest dog I think I've ever owned. First of all, she is the best alarm clock I've ever had. 6 a.m. on the dot every morning, she decides that it's time for me to get up. Because at 6 a.m., I wake up to this, to a wet nose against my nose. And it's very important for her to get up at 6 because she has a very important activity she has to do. At 6:05, she lays back down on the floor downstairs and goes back to sleep. So it's very important that I get up at 6 to make sure that she can go to sleep downstairs. She also, she has an incredible internal clock because she knows that at 6 p.m., that's when the dogs in the neighborhood all meet up at the neighborhood dog park. And so about 5:45 in the evening, she starts running back and forth and whimpering because she knows it's time to go to the dog park. And so she'll let me know. And sometimes I'll say, fine, I'll take her early. And along the way, she knows which dog lives in which house. And it's like she's going and knocking on the door, basically, and saying, hey, can Mila come out to play? Can Winston come out to play? And can Kingston come out to play? Kingston is her best friend. Kingston is her best friend. They'll run back and forth in the dog park for hours and hours and hours, but she knows what time it is. And we feed her, the expensive food. She's picky. She's a picky eater. She only wants to eat the food that has to be refrigerated. So we try to make it last longer. So we mix it in with kibble, and she can pick out she picks out the good stuff. Saves the kibble for later. She doesn't eat the kibble until later on. And she's a very sweet dog. As long as it's just me or my wife, she loves us dearly, and she loves us so much that she knows when we're coming back home. So if one of us or the other is at home with the dog, her name's Ari, by the way, Arizona. Her name's Ari. So if one of us is at home with Ari, and the other one has gone somewhere, gone to work, gone shopping, gone anywhere, she can hear the car coming from several blocks away, and she knows when we're coming home. And if we're in the house, she knows our voice. She knows when we call her. She doesn't always listen to what we have to say, but she knows our voice. And she knows that we're the people that take care of her and that we provide everything that she needs. So she knows who we are. She knows that we are her people. The reason I tell you that story is because we hear today from Jesus, who talks about being the good shepherd. He is the good shepherd, and his sheep hear his voice and know his voice. Well, who are his sheep? We are his sheep. We are his sheep. So he knows that we hear his voice. We pay attention to his voice, and hopefully we choose to listen to his voice. Now, I have said this before, and I will keep saying it as long as it's true. St. John the Baptist is a wonderful parish at listening to the voice of Jesus and to listen to what Jesus is calling you to do. I am so impressed by the way that this community listens to the voice of Jesus and then goes out into the world and does what he calls you to do. It's so impressive. I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud of you, and I hope that you're proud of yourselves, because many churches say that they are a church that serves, like it says on our sign here, but you are actually a church that actually does that. You know, we talk about lots of examples. And we've talked about them before. We'll talk about them again. Powwow yesterday was a huge success, a wonderful example of ministry. Right? We have a food pantry ministry. We have our veterans ministry. Right? We have so many ministries here at St. John the Baptist. And so what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks is we're going to be talking about some of these ministries and talk about how we can showcase some of these ministries and raise them up so that there's raised awareness of these ministries, and there's an opportunity to help fine-tune that voice of Jesus, to fine-tune what it is that Jesus is calling us to do. Right? We want to highlight, we want to showcase our ministries. And that's an example of, if you notice, the choir now sits here. And the reason for that is so that they're a little more visible, right? We want to raise up that very important ministry of providing music, right, for our worship. We want to raise up all of those ministries, and we want to help fine-tune the voice of Jesus. Because Jesus calls us in different ways. He calls us in different ways, and he calls us at different times in our life. Because maybe there's a ministry that I've been doing for, 10 years. Let's say I've been doing a ministry for 10 years, and that ministry is not feeding me the way that it once did. Right? Well, maybe it's time then to do some discernment and think about, where is Jesus calling me to serve next, right? What am I being called to do next? Because I take my dog, Ari, on a walk every morning. We go between 4 and 5 miles, but every day we go a different route. We go a different 4 or 5 miles. Right? Because if I go the same route every day, it's boring for her, and it's boring for me. That's why I don't like treadmills. Right? I buy a treadmill, and you know what it does? It becomes a coat stand in my house. That's where I just go in and I put the coat, because I don't use the treadmill. It's boring, right? But walking every day, I can do that, and especially if I can see something different every day, because it feeds me in a different way. So maybe there are tasks that we're doing, some ministries that we're doing that aren't feeding us the way that they once did, and maybe it's time to change it up a little bit, right? So we have an opportunity to see what else is out there. Maybe there was a ministry that I started doing, and at one time it took a lot of effort, took a lot of energy, and I wanted to focus on becoming good at that ministry. And maybe now now that I'm used to it, it isn't quite as challenging anymore. Maybe now I have time in my life to add to my plate, to do more ministry, right? So there are lots of different reasons that we might want to explore new ministries and showcase other ministries that are available to us. And we want to be able to identify when that voice of Jesus is calling us. Because sometimes the voice of Jesus shows up to us in the voice of our friends, of our community. Right? So what if somebody says, have you ever realized you have a really wonderful speaking voice? Maybe that's the voice of Jesus saying, hey, why don't you serve in the capacity of a lector? Right? Or maybe somebody says to you at some point, you're a very trustworthy person. I trust talking to you about my problems, and I trust that if I ask you to pray for me, that you're going to do that. Right? Well, maybe that means that you're going to join the prayer ministry and engage in private prayer with people and help in that capacity. Maybe someone says, hey, when you had me over for coffee the other day, you were such a wonderful host. And you say, well, maybe that's Jesus. Maybe that's Jesus saying, maybe you want to participate in the third place ministry here, the coffee hour ministry here in the kitchen, right? So lots of different ways that we can hear the voice of Jesus. And our task over the next few weeks is to what we call discern. We're going to try to discern that voice, and we're going to try to fine tune. Remember the old radios that used to have a knob and a dial, and the closer you could get to where the station broadcast, the clearer the reception is. So we're gonna work together on that reception. We're gonna work on fine-tuning that voice of Jesus, because Jesus is calling us, and I know that this is already a place that answers that call with love and joy, and we're on a forward trajectory. So we're trying to build on that. We're trying to build on our forward trajectory. We want to keep going. We don't want to stop where we are. We want to keep going. Like Vince Lombardi, old football coach, used to say, "Winning breeds winning." Right? And we see that when we watch the Suns play. Right? If the Suns are winning, they're more likely to keep winning, aren't they? The more games the Suns win, the more likely they are to keep winning and keep that winning trajectory. And so that's what we're doing here at St. John the Baptist. You're doing such wonderful things with such love and such joy. And my job here as your priest is to remind you of that, right? Is to remind you and empower you. I want you to feel empowered in your ministry, because you are the ministers of the church. Deacon Chuck and I are the clergy of the church, but you are the ministers of the church. And our role is to empower you, and to help equip you. So we're going to be listening to that voice of Jesus, because we know that Jesus is calling. The question we need to ask is, how do we prepare ourselves to listen? And when we listen, how do we equip ourselves to say yes? Amen.